Hello summoners and welcome back to another Pro Guides patch rundown video. My name is Christoph and today I'll be going over all the changes that were made in patch 9.22. I'll cover all the details, including a tier list for each role that was made by our challenger analysts and partnered pro players. Patch 9.22 is a huge patch, and these changes raised a lot of important questions. Will Kai'Sa and Xayah finally be gutted? Are Pantheon and Kayle finally out of the S+ tier? Will Sylas and Sejuani return to the meta? Don't worry, we got you guys covered and we'll answer all these questions in this video. But remember, since the patch just hit the live servers, please do keep in mind that our tier lists are purely predictions. We encourage all our viewers to comment on our list down below. Tell us if you agree or disagree. We read all your comments. Also, as a reminder, there will be an updated tier list 1 week into the patch where we use fresh stats to give you guys the best and most accurate tier lists available. So what are you waiting for? Hit that sub button. One more thing, today's question of the day is, who do you think is the better mid laner at the World's Finals? Doinb or Caps? Let us know your answers down below. And also before we begin, guys, this is the last patch before Season 9 comes to an end on November 18th. If you guys want to rank up, get those end of the season rewards, then you have to go to ProGuides.com using the description link below. Go find yourself a challenger coach who will help you get to the dream rank. Trust me, you guys will not regret signing up. Those end of the season rewards are worth something. They're important. Go get them. All right, now let's get back into the video. To start things off, let's go over some of the awesome new skins that are joining us on the Rift in patch 9.22. First, we have True Damage Akali, who's actually being played by the same member of the KDA Akali lineup. Next, we've got the super clean True Damage Echo. Then we have True Damage Qiyana and also the much anticipated Louis Vuitton skin for her, which is Prestige Edition True Damage Qiyana. See those LV patterns? Super, super awesome. Then we have the skin that you've all been dying to see the most, which is obviously True Damage Yasuo. And lastly, we have True Damage Senna, and yes, you heard that right. Patch 9.22 will be coming with a brand new champion, aka Lucian's wife, Senna. We won't go into too much detail about Senna in this video, but if you really want a detailed guide about her, then make sure to check out our previous video called The Only Senna Guide You'll Ever Need. This will be linked in our description link, so check that out to become a Senna god before you even try her out. Also, as a reminder, guys, we don't place new champions in our tier lists, but we'll make sure to add her during our mid-patch update next week. Okay, now all that is out of the way, let's get to the balance changes. Kayle has been one of the strongest picks in the top lane meta recently and is also a high priority pick for many teams at the World Championships. Ever since her mini rework, Kayle has been a bit too strong and was definitely in need of a nerf. For patch 9.22, the Balance team are looking to reduce Kayle's dominance in the top lane and are nerfing a few parts in her kit. Firstly, her Q, Radiant Blast, will have its damage lowered from 70 to 250 to 60 to 220. Next up, her W, Celestial Blessing, will have its mana cost increased from 60 to 100 to 70 to 110. These two changes will impact Kayle's stance in the meta and will make her weaker overall. However, Kayle will likely remain relevant in the top lane and will remain in the S+ tier for patch 9.22. Her reliability and safety during the early game is still intact, and taking a bit of base damage off her Q won't really affect her insanely strong mid to late game. However, you should expect her to drop on the tier list once Kleptomancy is reworked during the preseason. Pantheon is one of the most dominant and oppressive champions in the top lane and was long overdue for a nerf. I mean, come on, he has a 100% ban rate at the World Championships, which goes to show how overpowered he is. For patch 9.22, Pantheon will have his Q, Comet Spear's damage reduction to minions, increased from 20% to 30%. Next up is W, Shield Vault will no longer gain dash speed with his boots. This is a very minor change to Pantheon and it won't really affect his stance in the meta that much. He will still be that insanely oppressive early game bully with huge amounts of burst and kill threat. Pantheon will remain in the S tier for the top lane this patch. The top lane tier list remains pretty similar to the one we had in the previous video, due to the top lane only having 2 balance changes this patch. In our S+ tier, we have the same 3 members as always, which are Garen, Kled, and Kayle. These 3 champions are extremely powerful and will bring you the best results in your ranked games. Kayle and Garen have both received small nerfs within the past few patches, but they're still the best for your end of the season climb. I've been climbing with Garen recently. He's super easy to use. We got a ton of challenger coaches who know exactly what to do with him. Run in with your Q, do a quick trade, run into the bush, heal. You will climb to diamond in no time. In our S tier, we have the same roster as last time, which includes Darius, Mordekaiser, Jax, Pantheon, Renekton, Vladimir, and Fiora. Although Renekton and Vladimir have been in our S tier for multiple patches, there's a decent chance that they will drop into the A tier once the preseason rolls out due to the removal of Klepto and Shojin. So, if you main these champions or find them fun to play, then abuse them while you can because they'll be a lot weaker within a few weeks. One notable A tier champ for patch 9.22 is going to be Heimerdinger. Due to the vast amount of melee top laners in the meta, Heimerdinger is an extremely powerful champ for top lane. He can pretty much shut down any melee carry during the early to mid game due to his tower pressure and push potential. But the best part is you don't even have to be good at him if you want to climb. Just let your towers do all the work for you. Lastly, in our B tier, we welcome two new members who are Malphite and Sylas. Malphite has received a decent nerf this patch, and Sylas has received a buff. We'll go over these changes in the mid and jungle section, so make sure to stay tuned. Alright, now moving on to the jungle. And to remind all of you jungle mains out there, we have a Night Blue course on ProGuides.com, which is awesome. It will be super helpful for your end of the season climb, and it will definitely get you into your dream rank, so check it out. Sejuani has received a ton of nerfs within the past few months and might just be the most nerfed jungler in Season 9. However, the Balance team have realized that they heavily over-nerfed Sejuani recently and are buffing her to bring her back into her prime. Firstly, her health gain per level has been increased from 95 to 105. Next up, her HP regen and attack speed per level has been increased by a little bit. And lastly, her Q Arctic Assault will have its base damage increased from 80 to 240 with 40% scaling to 80 to 280 with 60% scaling. These are some decent buffs for Sejuani, but they aren't as big as people assume. Sej doesn't even build any AP items in her kit, so the 20% AP ratio buff is somewhat useless. However, the base stat buffs are always welcome and will help her out a decent bit. Sejuani will be moved up into the jungle B tier this patch. Although Malphite has almost zero presence in competitive play, which is pretty sad because his ultimate is awesome, he's still extremely powerful for solo queue and was in dire need of a nerf. For patch 9.22, Malphite will have his ultimate Unstoppable Forces AP ratio nerfed by 20%. This is a huge nerf for Malphite and will make him a lot weaker this patch. However, one thing to note is that this change will only affect the assassin-style full AP Malphite rather than the top lane tank version. For this reason, Malphite Jungle will be dropped into our C tier this patch. The jungle tier list sees almost no changes in patch 9.22. Much like the top lane, there were only 2 changes made to jungle this patch, and both of them were pretty minor when it came to the bigger picture. In our S+ tier, like always, we have Kha'Zix, Echo, and Shaco. These 3 junglers are the most overpowered jungle champs in the game, and you should learn all 3 of them if you want the best chances at climbing this patch. In our S tier, we have Evelynn, Mundo, Elise, Lee Sin, J4, Zac, Kayn, and Karthus. Out of these 8 champions, our analysts recommend that you learn Evelynn, Kayn, and Mundo this patch because they are the closest to making that push to the S+ tier. One notable change that was made to our list is to Sylas. Sylas was traditionally in our F tier for jungle, but has made his way into the D tier due to the buffs made to his kit this patch. We'll cover all of these in our mid lane section, which is coming next, so make sure you keep watching the video. Now, let's run it down mid. Sylas has received a ton of nerfs within the past few patches and has seen borderline unplayable status in the current meta. For patch 9.22, Sylas will receive a few base stat buffs on his HP regen per level, and magic resist. Next up is W Kingslayer will have its mana cost lowered from 50 to 70 to 40 to 60. These buffs are pretty minor, but they're welcome nonetheless. Honestly, Sylas can use as much love as he can right now due to the current state he's in, and he'll remain in the mid lane C tier due to his main weakness to AD damage. But he's already been pretty effective against AP matchups due to his magic shield. However, he is very, very vulnerable to AD threats like Zed, Talon, Pantheon, Qiyana, and Yasuo. The mid lane tier list remains very similar to the one we had at the start of last patch. In our S+ tier, we have Fizz and Talon, who are the 2 best mid laners in the game for solo queue. Next up in the S tier, we have Zed, Ahri, Malzahar, Katarina, Kassadin, Echo, and Vladimir. These 7 champions are extremely close to the S+ tier and can bring you guys similar results this patch. A few notable picks that you should learn or at least try in the mid lane are Syndra, Twisted Fate, Diana, Qiyana, and Camille. These champions have been rising in popularity for the past few weeks and can very easily get you to your dream rank by the end of the season. Also guys, give Galio another shot in the mid lane this patch because he's actually a lot stronger than what people think. I know we've been BMing him for quite some time, but he got some much needed love, and he's in a pretty decent spot. In fact, he's actually seen a decent amount of play in the mid lane by Griffin's mid laner Chovy, so watch some of his Worlds replays to get a better idea of this champ. Okay, now on to the AD carries. Ashe recently received a buff to her Q, which now enabled it to be a full-on auto reset. Ever since the change was made, Ashe has been a bit too strong in the meta, and she's receiving a nerf this patch. To compensate for the extra damage on her Q, the Balance team are nerfing her W's mana cost from 50 to 70. This means that this ability will be a lot less spammable, and you'll have to think more carefully before using it. Ashe will remain as a solid pick for solo Q, but will be dropped into the S tier for patch 9.22. Kai'Sa has been one of the most played AD carries in the World Championships and is finally receiving a nerf this patch. Firstly, her Q will have its multi-hit damage lowered from 30% per missile to 25%. This means that her max damage will be lowered by 10% and the evolved version lowered by 13%. This is a decent nerf which will cut her damage by a small amount, but she'll still remain in the AD carry meta. Kai'Sa will be dropped into our ADC S tier. Xayah has been one of the most played AD carries at the World Championships and is also receiving a nerf this patch. Firstly, Xayah will receive a huge nerf to her W, Deadly Plumage, which will have its attack speed change from 40 to 70% to 35 to 55%. This is a really big nerf to Xayah's damage output, especially during the mid to late game, and she will be lowered into the ADC A tier. Lastly, for AD carries, we have Kalista. Kalista has been somewhat of a forgotten champion in recent times, but it looks like the Balance team are finally giving her some love. First, her W Sentinel will have its mark damage increased from 5 to 15% max HP to 10 to 18%. Next up, Sentinel will also have its mark duration increased from 3 seconds to 4 seconds. These two are really nice changes for her, and she'll be moved up into the ADC C tier this patch. The ADC tier list sees a ton of changes in patch 9.22. In our S Plus tier, we have the 3 members who are Caitlyn, Lucian, and Jinx. Lucian has always been on the brink of making that push to S Plus tier and has finally done so this patch. With the removal of some of the other strong ADCs like Kai'Sa and Xayah, Lucian can now shine even brighter and demolish his lanes with ease. On top of that, his wife Senna will be available on the Rift this patch, which means that the Xayah Rakan duo will have some competition. Next up in the S tier, we have Draven, Vayne, Kai'Sa, and Ashe. These 4 champions are also very strong picks in the meta and can bring you very good results in your solo queue games. One notable pick that we want to mention is Miss Fortune. MF's win rate and play rate has skyrocketed on the Korean server recently for no apparent reason whatsoever. This might just be due to a few ADC meta shifts, but we'll look into it a bit further and keep you guys updated with why she's suddenly so strong. Okay, and let's finish off with the supports. Nautilus has also been a top-tier support for the entirety of the season and is finally receiving some nerfs. His ultimate Depth Charge will have its damage nerfed from 200 to 450 to 150 to 400. This is a really big nerf for Nautilus supports because losing 50 damage during the early game is pretty big. Nautilus will be dropped into the S tier for supports, but will remain as a great pick for solo queue. Blitzcrank recently received some huge buffs to his Q and ultimate, which have made him the most broken and OP support in League of Legends. In order to keep Blitz in check, he will receive a small damage nerf to his Q, Rocket Grab, during the mid to late game. Unfortunately for us Blitz haters, these nerfs are really just a small slap on the wrist and will not affect his stance in the meta. Blitzcrank will remain as an S Plus tier support, and you should probably pick or ban him every game. The support tier list sees a couple of changes in our patch 9.22 tier list. In the S Plus tier, we only have 2 members this time due to the removal of Nautilus. These 2 members are going to be Blitzcrank and Leona, who are by far the strongest supports in the game. If you're looking for a strong counterpick to these 2 champions, then our analysts highly recommend you try Morgana. Morgana's Black Shield can single-handedly destroy these 2 picks and neutralize their threat. In the S tier, we have Nautilus, Pyke, Thresh, Morgana, Swain, Shaco, and Bard. Shaco's support has been rising in popularity recently, and he's honestly super underrated. His W being able to hit multiple targets at once was a huge buff for his role as a support. Try him out and let us know how that goes down below. Lastly, one notable pick that's been seeing a lot more play recently is Maokai. Although Maokai is unranked in our support tier list, he's been getting more and more popular in Korean solo queue, and we might just add him into our mid-patch update. However, there just isn't enough stats to accurately place him on our current list, so we'll have to wait and see if his play rate keeps increasing. That's it for our patch 9.22 rundown video. If you guys enjoyed watching this video, then please leave a like, comment, and sub to our channel to be notified of our next one. And make sure to check out ProGuides.com for in-depth content and guides that were made by your favorite pro players. The second part of our meta-analysis video will be available next week, which will give you guys the most accurate tier list available using fresh stats. And if you guys want to increase your rank this season, then go check out ProGuides.com. Use the description link below. You will not be disappointed. That's it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck in your next few games, and we'll see you on the Rift.